What's up, everyone? In this video, I'm going to be talking about every NFL team's biggest strength. And this isn't just going to necessarily be their best player. Sometimes it is, but it really just depends on the nature of the team. So with that in mind, let's get into it. First team, Chicago Bears, their biggest strength is quarterback Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams by no means is the Bears' best player. But the reason I have him as the biggest strength is because he has brought something to that organization that they have been lacking in a long time. He's given them hope. He has genuine talent, and he's about everything you could ask for a Bears rookie quarterback. He didn't start off great, but he's a rookie, and it takes some time to get adjusted. But right now, he's playing great, and I think he's going to have a lot of years in Chicago to be a great quarterback for them. And the biggest strength for the Cincinnati Bengals is wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase. This one might be a little controversial because some might argue it's Joe Burrow, but the reason I think it's Ja'Marr Chase is because I think without Ja'Marr Chase, Joe Burrow is a completely different quarterback in a bad way. Not that Joe Burrow's bad, but he's just not as good as, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar without an elite receiver, which is okay, but I say the elite receiver on the Bengals that I just mentioned is the biggest strength on that team. The biggest strength on the Buffalo Bills is quarterback Josh Allen. And what I just said about Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, people were saying at the beginning of the season that he was going to struggle, but he has been playing like an MVP caliber quarterback, and he is the big reason why they are sitting pretty at 5-2, and they could honestly be the number one seed if things fall their way. Yeah, they're definitely still a juggernaut. I don't know why people thought they would be bad or something. People were saying they were going to miss the playoffs, but they're definitely a Super Bowl contender. The biggest strength on the Denver Broncos is cornerback Patrick Surtain II. And he's been our best player for the last 2 seasons at least. And he's the reason why our defense is so good. He is a big reason why we are able to blitz as much as we do and still be good and consistently, wrecking havoc for offenses. And a big reason is because Patrick Surtain II is leading that secondary, and he's doing a damn good job of doing so, and that's why a big reason why the Broncos are 4-3. The biggest strength on the Cleveland Browns is defensive end Myles Garrett. And he's by far their best player. And the Browns, they haven't had a lot of success this year. They're sitting at 1-6 and will probably miss the playoffs. But Myles Garrett is definitely not the reason why they're doing so bad. He is doing everything he can to provide a spark to that team. And it's really just the fact that the Browns just are in a really shitty situation with the Deshaun Watson contract. But Myles Garrett, you are still the face of the franchise for the Browns, and that will continue for probably at least the next 3 years. The biggest strength on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is defensive tackle Vita Vea. And this one's interesting because you could argue it's Mike Evans or Baker Mayfield because of how well their offense has been playing. But I'm actually going with Vita Vea because the Bucs consistently every year have one of the best run defenses in the NFL, and this guy is a big reason why that is the case. And I believe if the Vita Vea wasn't on that team, their defense would not be good. They wouldn't be as good as they are right now. They would definitely be struggling without Vita Vea leading. Our biggest strength on their biggest strength on the Arizona Cardinals is running back James Conner. And this is another one where you could probably pick any player on their offense, from Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., if you really want to include him. But I'm going with James Conner because right now he is having a really good season. And it was between him and Kyler Murray, and I think James Conner's having a better season than Kyler Murray. And that's how I was able to narrow it down to James Conner as the best strength on the Arizona Cardinals. The biggest strength on the Los Angeles Chargers is head coach Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh, he's changed the culture of that team. They're competitive. They're actually winning games in a very, non-Chargers-like way, which is a good thing because Chargers usually means bad. But Jim Harbaugh's doing everything he can to make this team just a more balanced team, honestly, because one thing about the Chargers that was a problem before is their consistency, but Jim Harbaugh, has done a great job of establishing some consistency with that team. The biggest strength on the Kansas City Chiefs, besides the refs, is head coach Andy Reid. And this one's self-explanatory. The Chiefs are 6-0. Their offense looks fucking terrible. Terrible. Their defense is still good. But Andy Reid, he is just getting the job done despite his best player having one of the worst seasons of his career. And I think Andy Reid, he's a genius. He's going to be a Hall of Fame head coach someday. And this season has really proving why he is such a good head coach to have on your team. The biggest strength on the Indianapolis Colts is running back Jonathan Taylor. And I'm trying not to include players who are currently injured because Jonathan Taylor's been injured for a little while, but he actually is expected to come back on Sunday. So I figured I was safe to include him. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he is the reason why their offense is playing as well as they have, because their defense is terrible, but their offense is actually, doing pretty well considering they have a rookie quarterback, and Jonathan Taylor is a huge reason why that is the case. Our biggest strength on the Washington Commanders is quarterback Jayden Daniels. And Jayden Daniels, same reason with Caleb Williams. He's shifted the culture of that team. They're a genuinely, decent franchise. They are a watchable franchise. They're actually could win the NFC East if cards fall their way. And, it's just, it's exactly what I said for the Bears. It also applies to the Commanders. And the biggest strength on the Dallas Cowboys is wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. And this team has a lot of problems, and I mean a lot of problems. Their defense is underachieving. Their offense is also underachieving, but the reason their offense is a little bit less of a concern is because of this guy. This guy is still having a pretty solid season for himself. Definitely not the reason why the Cowboys are struggling. And they paid him a lot of money in the offseason, and he is earning every cent of that, earning every penny of that contract. And, if there's one thing the Cowboys don't have to worry about, it's their number one wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. The biggest strength on the Miami Dolphins is wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Now, this one is interesting because the Dolphins don't have a lot of strengths this season specifically because of the Tua injury. But I feel like Tyreek Hill is still such an unbelievable asset that they aren't utilizing as much as they could. And Tua's expected to come back this week. And I think Tyreek Hill's going to have an unbelievable game with his quarterback back in the mix because their chemistry is unmatched. His speed is unbelievable. And their offense is going to have a real spark on Sunday, and I think they could be a dangerous team moving forward. The biggest strength on the Philadelphia Eagles is running back Saquon Barkley. And the Eagles, they're 4-2, so you'd think they don't have a whole lot of problems, but there's definitely things that aren't great in their organization. Like their defense isn't doing great, Jalen Hurts is having a down season, their head coach is kind of a fucking clown. But Saquon Barkley, he's been a dog. He has been having probably his best season to date with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he is just providing some stability on that offense that is the reason why they are 4-2. I think he is the reason why they're having the success they are currently having. The biggest strength on the Atlanta Falcons is quarterback Kirk Cousins. Now this one, I had to kind of think about this one because the Falcons don't really have a game-changing player, or at least not a game-changing player to the aspect that other teams do. But I kind of went the same route I went with the Bears and Commanders, where, you know, Kirk Cousins being on the team has just made their offense so much better, and it's made the team watchable as well. And that's why I went with Kirk Cousins as the best player on the not the best player, the biggest strength. Best player is debatable, but yeah, Kirk is providing a spark for that offense for the first time in a while. All right, biggest strength on the San Francisco 49ers is defensive end Nick Bosa. And the 49ers, they're another team, they're just injured. They're so injured. And CMC, he probably would have been on here if he wasn't injured. Brandon Ayuk is injured. Deebo Samuel's injured. And, you know, it's just not been a successful season for the 49ers. But don't blame Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is one reason why this team is somewhat still competitive. And he's a dog. He is really, really good. And he's the reason why their defense is still pretty solid. The biggest strength on the New York Giants is defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence II. And this one's pretty easy. He's their best player, and the team's not having any sort of success. Their offense outside of Malik Nabers has been a train wreck. Their defense hasn't been too bad. I mean, they've got guys like Brian Burns, and they've got, you know, obviously Dexter Lawrence, and Dexter Lawrence, he's their best player, and he's the big reason why their defense is as good as it is. The biggest strength on the Jacksonville Jaguars is linebacker Josh Hines Allen, or aka the defensive Josh Allen. And the Jags are another team, they have not had any sort of success, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Outside of Tank Bigsby, Dick Bigsby, and Brian Thomas Jr., they've had nothing on offense, and their defense hasn't been that good either. But definitely don't blame this guy. This guy is still a monster. And yeah, Josh Allen, he's really good, and not the reason why the Jags are 2-5, but hopefully they turn it around because this guy deserves it. All right, New York Jets, their biggest strength is cornerback Ahmad Sauce Gardner. And the Jets, they're another team that hasn't had quite the success you'd like, but definitely not the defense's fault, and most certainly not Sauce Gardner's fault. He has been holding his own and doing just about everything he can to help his team win games, and now the Jets have to help him out as well by, you know, actually winning games and providing the service that he deserves, you know, a Super Bowl, because this guy is so fucking good. The Detroit Lions' biggest strength is head coach Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell, he has just shifted the culture of the Lions. It took him a little while. 2021 wasn't great. 2022 had a rocky start to it. 2023 was a really good season. They went all the way to the NFC Championship. And 2024, the Lions, they look like the best team in the NFL right now, in my opinion. And Dan Campbell is the heart and soul of that team. He is one of those coaches where you would run through a wall for him. He is just so likable too. And the Green Bay Packers' biggest strength is quarterback Jordan Love. And Jordan Love, everyone was saying that when Aaron Rodgers left, that Jordan Love would have way too big of shoes to fill and that he would suck and they never should have drafted him. Jordan Love is definitely putting all those doubters to rest because he's been having a very good season. Now, there are definitely some issues in his game. He definitely turns the ball over a little more than you'd like, but the reality is when you're a young quarterback, you're going to have, you know, issues of that. But Jordan Love, he's providing a spark for the Packers that is keeping them in Super Bowl contention. And the Carolina Panthers' biggest strength is running back Chuba Hubbard. And to be completely honest, this team doesn't have a lot of strengths. They look like the worst team in the NFL. But Chuba Hubbard's been having a really good season, so that's why I picked him to be the biggest strength for the Panthers, because despite how bad their offense has been, Chuba Hubbard has been a very solid piece for them. The New England Patriots' biggest strength is cornerback Christian Gonzalez. And the Patriots are another team that hasn't had any success this year. They have one win. Their offense is anemic. They don't really have anybody outside of Drake May and maybe Ramondre Stevenson. And their defense hasn't been too bad, but the reality is if you don't have a good offense, you're not going to win many games in the NFL. But the Patriots defense is actually not too bad, and Christian Gonzalez, he is a big reason why they're able to stay somewhat decent on that side of the ball. The Las Vegas Raiders' biggest strength is defensive end Maxx Crosby. And Maxx Crosby, he is unbelievable. He is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And he deserves better. The Raiders are 2-5, I believe, when I'm making this. And their offense has really been letting this defense down because their defense isn't too bad. And Maxx Crosby, I mean, he knows how to get after the quarterback, and he is just such a very disruptive player, too. He has the ability, if the Raiders offense could get their shit together, like the Raiders could be a dangerous team because of Maxx Crosby leading that defense. The Los Angeles Rams' biggest strength as of right now is running back Kyren Williams. And this is actually a little controversial because Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are currently back, and you could argue those two guys over Kyren Williams, but I'm not going to do that because Kyren Williams has been having an unbelievable season. He's had a touchdown in every single game he's played, which has been all of the games the Rams have played. And they actually are starting to turn their season around, and I don't think any of that would be possible without the services of running back Kyren Williams. The Baltimore Ravens' biggest strength is quarterback Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, he has been arguably the best quarterback in the league this year. And he could win his third MVP this year. He really could. And the Ravens, they have the rushing attack of Lamar and Derrick Henry. And that has really been helping their offense catch a spark. Arguably the best offense in the NFL because it's really just kind of a pick your poison type of thing. Because if you commit to Lamar, Derrick Henry will have a good game. If you commit to Derrick Henry, Lamar will have a good game. So yeah, Lamar's their biggest strength. The New Orleans Saints' biggest strength is running back Alvin Kamara. And the Saints actually extended Alvin Kamara for an extra 2 years. And I think that's a good decision because Alvin Kamara, he's turning back the clock this year. And the Saints haven't been too great since their Week 2 game where they put up 40-plus points in their first 2 games. But don't blame Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara has been having a resurgence career because the defense sucks and their offense sucks, but the Kamara does not. The Seahawks' biggest strength is running back Kenneth Walker III. I don't know if it's third. I honestly forgot. But Kenneth Walker, the Seahawks, kind of similar to the Saints, like a better version of the Saints because they're 4-3, but their offense could definitely be better because Geno Smith is definitely a liability on that team now, and their defense has been underwhelming considering who their head coach is. He's a defensive mind. But Kenneth Walker, he's been having a really good season, and a big reason why the Seahawks are 4-3. The Pittsburgh Steelers' biggest strength is linebacker TJ Watt. And TJ Watt, he is, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the NFL because when the Steelers don't have TJ Watt, their defense completely falls apart. And he's so important to that team. Like, it really, just shows. And he's actually being healthy. He's actually healthy this year. And I like how he's healthy because he's a good guy and he's really good at football. And he's proving this year why he's the best player in the league. And TJ Watt, he's a dog. The Houston Texans' biggest strength is running back Joe Mixon. And this one's a little controversial because honestly, it would be Nico Collins if Nico Collins was healthy. But he unfortunately suffered an injury. And it'd be CJ Stroud, but CJ Stroud's having a down year for his standards. But Joe Mixon, he's turning back the clock. And a lot of running backs are doing that. Alvin Kamara's doing that. Joe Mixon's doing it. Probably another guy I forgot. But yeah, Joe Mixon, he's helping the Texans stay afloat while the offense is struggling, because he most certainly is not struggling. The Tennessee Titans' biggest strength is their defensive end, Jeffrey Simmons. And Jeffrey Simmons, you know, he's by far the best player on the team. And the Titans defense, surprisingly, is actually one of the best defenses in the NFL, but you would not know that because of how bad their record is and how bad their offense has been. But don't blame Jeffrey Simmons. He has been doing everything he can to keep that Titans defense as solid as they could possibly be, because they are a wrecking crew. And ending, we have the Minnesota Vikings' biggest strength as defensive coordinator Brian Flores. And despite the Vikings struggling defensively in their last 2 games, I still have to tip my hat to Brian Flores. He is taking a team that doesn't have a whole lot of defensive talent. They're not like terrible, but they definitely aren't that good. And he's taken them and he's molding them into one of the best defenses in the NFL. And the last 2 games have been kind of bad, but I mean, to be fair, you're going up against 2 of the best offenses in the NFL. And I cannot give this guy enough credit. He is a big reason why the Vikings are having any sort of success this year, because they were expected to suck. They were expected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, but Brian Flores had other thoughts, and they're sitting pretty at 5-2. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. I definitely liked making this video, and I'll try to do more NFL-centered videos in the future because you guys seem to like those a lot more. And I will see you guys in my next video.